So gather all of your statements of all of your investment accounts. What's your mortgage? What's the interest rate on your mortgage? Do you have credit card debt? Okay, what's the interest rate on your credit cards? What is your credit limit? Have you run your credit report? And that's where, when I say all these things, sometimes people are like,
Welcome, Nicole. I'm so glad that we have finally gotten together, and I'm excited that it is the beginning of 2025. And this is such a great time for us to get onto the topic of getting our finances together for the future and for this upcoming year. I am looking forward to you giving us all the tips that can really empower us to move forward. Your background is so impressive and your journey is truly inspiring. Let's dive right in. For so many people, finances can be overwhelming. Where do you think people struggle the most? And when it comes to managing their finances, how do you give them the best advice?
I think people struggle the most with confidence. Like, money can be overwhelming and very intimidating. And a lot of times, particularly when people have children, and I'm talking about like teach your kids about money and give them an allowance and set up a family 401k. And people are like, oh my gosh, like money's so scary for me. How am I supposed to be talking to my kids about something that is intimidating for me? And so that's where I feel like so many times people are just overwhelmed with the concept of money. It's kind of like stepping on the scale. You're like, I don't want to know. and and so realistically, that's where like most people don't have a budget, like that dreaded B word, or we call it a cash flow plan, and most people don't have a financial plan. And so those are the two places to start because that's really drives everything. And there's those things are sometimes scary to think about. It's like, but you've got to take that assessment and step on that scale to be like, okay, where am I? What do I need to do, and who do I need to hire, or what do I need to do every day to make an impact with my financial situation? And so I really feel like as a country, we struggle so much with money because there's such a lack of education around finances. Like, you don't get it in the school, no one wants to talk about money. And you think of people that have lots and lots of stuff as people that are like, oh, those people are successful, but generally buying lots of stuff and buying, you know, m- wasting money on things isn't going to bring you happiness. And that's definitely not going to bring you satisfaction with your money, let alone it's not going to bring you more money.
That is so true. So, if somebody was just starting out, being that you've been in the financial world so long and you've helped so many individuals, what would you say is the first step people should take if they want to improve their financial wellness?
The first step is to gather all of your statements, gather all of your stuff. So, now is the perfect time of year because everyone had to send out year end statements. And so you pull, what was my 401k? What was in my IRA? What was in my savings account? What's in my checking account? All these year end statements. What life insurance do you have? Because so many times there's so many different types of things when it comes to our money, and I find it fascinating that people will come into my office and they've got like a box of stuff and they're super embarrassed. I'm like, trust me, I had a woman that came in with 8 boxes one time. It was like, I have no clue what any of this stuff is. And so that's the place to start is gather all of your accounts because it never surprises me how many times we have clients that have been with us, 8 months, 9 months, and they're like, oh, well, I forgot about this one, or oh, I forgot about this account. You really need to know where your money is and what is it in and what is it doing for you. So gather all of your statements of all of your investment accounts. What's your mortgage? What's the interest rate on your mortgage? Do you have credit card debt? Okay, what's the interest rate on your credit cards? What is your credit limit? Have you run your credit report? And that's where, when I say all these things, sometimes people are like, whoa, like this is too much. This is overwhelming. That's where it's like, just start with one thing. So start with your investments, get your 401k statement, get your IRA statements, see a financial advisor. And really, a lot of times people are like, oh, well, I don't have enough money to see a financial advisor. And I'm always like, how are you going to get enough money if you don't see someone? Most financial advisors, we don't charge. You can meet with us at no cost. You want to find someone that you like, find someone that has a personality that fits you, find someone that has a team, find someone that's going to give you a financial plan. And realistically, you meet with that person, they'll take all of your statements and they'll help you and they'll explain all of this stuff of where you are and then break it down to, okay, what do you need to do? Once you've figured out where you are, it's okay, where do I want to be? What age do I want to retire? How much income do I want when I retire? And if you can figure out like what you want in your life and where you want your finances to be, a wealth advisor, we can help get you there and tell you, okay, you need to max out your 401k plan. You need to max out your Roth IRA. Oh, now that you're 50, you can put more money away. And so it's all of these things that you want to make sure you're not missing. And that's where a wealth advisor can help you with that.
I know that in different places of the country, things might be different. But where I live, if you don't have a portfolio of at least $500,000, you cannot find a wealth advisor. So if it is a family just starting out, a young person wanting to learn on how to set themselves up for the future, are there places you can go and get help and support a beginner level?
Yeah, I mean, that's where our firm, we don't have minimums. And we work in pretty much every state except for Tennessee. I just have a really good friend that lives in Tennessee, and Tennessee's a little weird with costs and licenses and things like that. But so I mean, there are advisors out there. Maybe you need to look outside of your area for an advisor if you're running into that. But there are advisors that don't have minimums. You want to make sure that person's been around for a while. The reason that we don't have minimums and we never will is because, and I left Morgan Stanley 22 years ago. I've been doing this for a long time. But as our firm, we don't have minimums because I started working when I was 11 at the neighbor's in-home daycare. I started making 5 cents an hour. Then I was bumped up to 25 cents an hour. Eventually, I was making $1. And I just saved all that money. And so when I was 16, I had $10,000 in my savings
Oh,
account.
wow.
And I heard my mom on the phone. So I'm a former figure skater. And one of my figure skating friends, her dad was a stockbroker back then. And he was a stockbroker at Dean Witter, ironically, which became Morgan Stanley Dean Witter, which is where I've had started in that same office. He was a stockbroker there and he had a minimum of $100,000. Because mind you, this was a long time ago. And I heard my mom one day on the phone, just sell Microsoft, sell Intel, and send us the check, send us the money. And I was like, Mom, I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, I want to buy Microsoft and Intel stock. And she's like, oh, honey, it's too risky. And he's just doing us a favor. You have to have 100 grand to invest with him. So being a 16-year-old, I went over to Europe and I studied over in Germany. And then I went again in college and I blew all of the money. Now, studying abroad over in Europe, I had the most amazing experience. I mean, one day I was seeing the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and the next day I was in Greece and Budapest, Hungary, and I milked cows on my cousin's farm up in up in Sweden. I had this amazing experience. But I own my commercial building that I office in, and I probably would have not needed so much of the bank's help to buy this building if I had just taken a few $1,000s and bought Microsoft and Intel stock back ages and ages ago. So that's why for us, we will never have minimums. And so that's where, but you want to be careful. You don't just want like new financial advisors when they're getting started don't have minimums. Like you want to find someone that has a team and that has an experienced group of people. But you want to find someone that's a good fit for you that doesn't have a minimum so that you can get started.
That is so good to know because that is one of the situations that I found intimidating, and so
Mhm.
I'm sure many do. It's hard enough opening and exposing yourself to someone that you don't know and giving them all of the ins and outs of your life and being afraid of being judged because you don't know as much as they do. Do you work with people remotely? Can people around the country contact you and work with you if they choose?
Yes, it's interesting because prior to the pandemic, people were like, "Oh, you're in Minneapolis. Oh, you're in Minneapolis." And now no one asks. Like there's some clients we've never met that are in other states. And so, yeah, I mean, we do phone calls and well, I just got off the phone with a client down in Texas. And so we do phone calls or Zoom meetings, and anyone anyone that wants help that's in really any state, will except for Tennessee, well, we sure can help them. So
Oh, that's not bad. That covers most of the country. We'll
yes,
put
well,
all
and I
of
have a
your
very dear friend that's in Tennessee that I can send them to. Yeah.
That's good to know. It's an up and coming place. So,
Mm-hmm.
for a young person entering the workforce, how can they start to set themselves up before they reach out to a financial advisor to start building a healthy future for themselves?
So the first thing is, if you have a 401k plan, max out the 401k plan to the point that you get a match, because that's free money. Then you want to do your Roth IRA. And the Roth IRA, anyone that's earning income, you can put 7 grand a year into it. If you're over 50, you can do $8,000 into it. And why the Roth is so important is anything that you earn in the Roth IRA, you don't pay any taxes on the dollars later on when you take it out. Versus like your 401k plan is the opposite. The 401k plan helps you now, so you're going to pay less in taxes. But later on, when you retire and you take that money out, you have to pay taxes on those dollars. The Roth, you don't pay taxes later on, but you pay taxes now. So that's why it's important you do both. So contribute to the point that you get a match on your 401k. Do your Roth IRA, that's 7 grand if you're younger. If you're over 50, 8 grand. Then come back to the 401k plan and fully max it out. And then you want to make sure that you don't have any credit card debt. Because if you have credit card debt, you're living beyond your means, or something happened in life, medical issue, divorce, you lost your job. But I've seen some of these credit card statements that they're charging, 19, 21% interest. Like if you have that, you cannot get ahead. And then the other important thing is to make sure that you're taking advantage of the things that are available to you. So if you work for a company that offers like a stock plan, an ESOP plan, generally it's called, that's where you're able to buy stock at a 10 or 15% discount. That means you're buying stock at 10% or 15% less than I can buy it or anyone can buy it. So you want to take advantage of those things if your company offers that. Life insurance or other benefits, you want to look at that. HSAs, long-term care insurance, what does your company offer? Then make sure you have no credit card debt, and then make sure you have some liquid money. Any wealth advisor, we're going to tell you want to have 3 to 6 months of expenses set aside in a liquid money market account. That's not in your checking. It's not underneath your mattress. It's not in a 401k plan. This is in an insured money market account. And this is when you get home and it's freezing outside and your furnace doesn't work, or you get in a car accident or a medical emergency with a kid or yourself. That's what you have that liquid money for, to pay your bills and keep going until you're able to make it.
That sounds great. Now, you're basically focusing on people that work for a corporation. How would this differ for a self employed person?
Perfect. When you're self-employed, that is like the best way to go. And
Really?
so if you work for a company and have a business on the side, or if you have 1099 income, you want to do the SEP IRA. SEP, it stands for Simplified Employee Pension Plan. These are like magic. Like you're able to put up to 25% of your net income away, and that's totally deductible for you. So if you own your own business, or you work at a company and contribute to a 401k plan and have a business on the side, or have this 1099 income, you can have that 401k at work and also have the SEP IRA. So the SEP IRA, you're able to put up to 25% of your net income from that 1099 income or from that business up to over 60 grand a year. And that's another deduction for you. So that's what's huge. It saves so many people so much money on taxes, let alone provides you an opportunity to save for your retirement later on. And the SEP IRA, it's the beginning of the year of 2025. If you have not, if you didn't do one for 2024, it's still okay. You have time. When you own your own business, the government allows you until the tax deadline, which is April 15th, to contribute to that SEP IRA for last year. So if you're catching this before April 15th, you're able to possibly do a SEP IRA for the year prior, and that would give you a deduction for last year as well as then you can do from here forward.
So you're paying yourself back the interest.
Yes.
That is, and HSAs, that's the health savings plan. You can do that as a self employed person, if I recall, also. And
Yep.
that would also be like a rainy day account.
Well, as long as it's for health expenses. So the HSA is if you have a high deductible health insurance plan. So you need to make sure that you have a health insurance plan that you can have an HSA along with it. And that
Oh,
HSA, I mean, for me as a single mom with two kids that, my daughter, actually, we have a meeting with a surgeon tomorrow. Like, one kid or the other kid every year has something going on. And so for me, my money goes in my HSA and immediately comes out. But later on, when the kids are older, you won't. The goal is that you're putting money away, you're saving money on taxes. That money then can be used for healthcare expenses, but it can be used for anything. And so there's flexible spending accounts. Those generally you have to use those before the year is out. Health savings accounts, you don't have to deplete that account every year. You can put that money away and contribute. You can invest it and leave that in there. It's just when you have children, usually you're using the health savings account a lot as you go along.
well, the reason why I'm asking that, and it's actually goes into my next question, which is about how individuals approaching retirement and what advice you can give them in terms of planning and ensuring they have enough to secure their future. And the reason why I personally was told about the HSA is because right now I'm on my husband's insurance, but when I go on to Medicare, I am looking at well over $1,000 a month. And that's not even giving all of it. And the HSA had come into play because somebody had said, "Are you planning to work for a lot more years?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Well, that's great because you can open up an HSA now and have it offset your medical expenses in the future."
Yes.
But then you said that you have to see if you can do that. Can you do that as a person on Medicare?
Yeah, I mean, you can put money away in a HSA and use it whenever you want. It just has to be used for any kind of healthcare expense. So you could buy Tylenol or you could use it for, a health insurance, something that wasn't covered from a health insurance or like any kind of healthcare need. So when you're planning for retirement, the closer you get towards retirement, that's where you want to look at, okay, how much money do I have? Do I need to accumulate more? Am I maxing out my SEP? Am I maxing out my Roth IRA? Am I maxing out my 401k plan? Am I on track? And then health insurance is the number one reason people do not retire early. And I should say healthcare expenses is the number one reason. That's where, sometimes people will have their house paid for and no mortgage, but their health insurance premium may make up that difference. Or even looking like at long-term care expenses and things like that. So that's when you're planning for retirement, you need to look at how much do I have saved up. And it used to be, well, let me get $1 million. If I get $1 million and I put that into a CD earning 5% or an annuity, I can get $50,000 a year income. Well, most of the time nowadays, 50 grand doesn't go very far. And so that's where most people are looking at 3 to 4 to 5 million that they want to accumulate to make it in their retirement years. And so that's where the closer you get towards retirement, you really want to fine tune where's your money in what account, let alone what is it invested in. And there's something from an investment standpoint that I'm a huge advocate of, especially for women. It's called a structured CD. And I will only use those that are FDIC insured. But a structured CD is a way to invest in stocks and your money's protected, especially in this kind of environment that we are now. And we as women, we tend to be more conservative as investors. And so that's where we don't want to be so conservative that we don't get our money growing enough. And so that's where structured CDs can be a great complement to that. It's a way to invest in stocks and your money is actually protected.
Okay, so before we go on, could you just give a quick review on the order of importance? Do we start out with our 401k?
Hmm.
Where should we focus and then work our way down while paying off our debt so that we are to that $500,000?
Yep. So you want to start with the 401k plan to the point that you get the match. And so let's say your company gives you a 5% match. Well, then you put in 5%. Then do your Roth IRA. And if you qualify, and sometimes your income might be too high to do the regular Roth, that's where there's a little loophole or a roundabout way called the backdoor Roth IRA that you can check into. So max to the point that you get the match. So let's say you get 5%, do 5% in the 401k. Do your Roth IRA, that's 7 or the 8 grand, then come back to that 401k plan. Then you want to look at what debt do I have? Get rid of it. There's good debt and there's bad debt. Good debt is a mortgage, a student loan. If you have something, a car loan at 1, 2%, or even 0%, don't worry about that. Because if you have your money in a money market account earning 4 or 5%, you're actually still ahead. It's these high interest credit card rates that those are the things that you need to get rid of and get gone because it's not serving you well. And then if you own a business, do the SEP IRA. That's up to 25% of your net income. Then make sure you have enough liquid money. And then that's where then it's looking at, what kind of insurance do you have? Do you have kids? Are you investing in their 529 plans? Do you need a new house? Do you need a car? And every kind of an account or every kind of thing that you can attach a dollar amount to, it's best to set up an account for that. So I have what's called the Live It list, which is a positive spin on the bucket list. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. And my son was 2, well, my son was 3 and my daughter was 2, and I got them to bed one night and I was like, "How did I end up here?" Like, I hate everything. Nothing in my life I'd picked out. So I rewrote my bucket list. Well, when you tell people you're doing something on your bucket list, they think you're dying. So I just started calling it the Live It list. Well, then I learned 1 in 3 Americans is happy. I learned if you spend more money in experiences, you're going to be happier than if you spend money on things. Well, when my kids were like 3 and 4, I was talking about this Live It list. Someone told me, they're like, when your kids are like 14, 15, or 13, 14, you need to take them on an African safari. That is like the best age to take your kids on African safari. And so sometimes people hear this Live It list and they're like, oh, I can't go to Egypt or I can't go to African safari. Like, those are just so expensive. Like, that's just too big. Well, I really believe in having impossible dreams and thinking big. Well, I heard about this when the kids were 3 and 4, right? I had 10 years. So I set up an investment account, labeled it for our African safari. You're talking about this experience. The kids are growing up hearing all about, we're going on this African safari. We're going on this African safari. This is what you're supposed to do when you're 13 and 14. We went, and petting a cheetah is one of my top Live It list experiences. And it was just an amazing opportunity. And now that the kids are 15 and 16, we still talk about that trip. And we're going to talk about it when they have kids and I've got grandkids. And so that's where it's all about setting that intention, setting that goal, and giving yourself time for retirement or the trip to Africa or whatever it is that you want to accomplish or whatever you want to achieve with your money.
That's awesome. So we've talked about young people. We've talked about retirement, but you have also mentioned that you are a single parent. What differs in that family dynamic versus having a unit when you're talking about money and investments?
Well, when you're on your own, and especially like depends if you're receiving like child support or spousal maintenance or anything. And if, there are some people that like co-parent very well, but I'm just going to go from the standpoint like you're totally on your own. Like I received no child support. I actually even had to pay spousal maintenance. And so there's this nervousness of like, oh my gosh, like this is it. Like I am me And so it was really important for me to set up like trust accounts and to make sure I had enough life insurance and like to make sure that I had these conversations with the kids. Because if something were to happen, the kids know, which is sad because I talk too much about money, but the kids know so and so is going to move into the house. Like, you're going to be okay. You're going to stay in the same school. Like, this is there's money here and you have this college account, because that's where I feel like so many times, particularly college, people kids don't know, like, are they going to end up with something? Do they have money for college? And parents are like, oh my gosh, like, I'm not going to have enough money for them to go to college, and like, let's just not talk about it. Well, if you don't talk about it, that's really the big problem. And so, especially if you're a single parent, I highly recommend you have family meetings, so we call them. And behind us, we have that shadow box. It's called a family 401k plan. And so I would sit down with my kids once a week. And, I had like, when they were little, I had little behavior charts and they got little stars. And then the stars turned into money. Now we use the green light card because they're older and they're teenagers for their allowance and things like that. But the family 401k would be things that I was gonna probably buy anyway, but the things that the kids really wanted. So over the years, it was an Xbox, a hoverboard, a trampoline, and Oculus thing. And so the kids would sit down and they wanted a trampoline. And so then they would research together and discuss. And so, as a brother and sister that are very close in age, they have very different opinions, and so they would have to come to an agreement on which trampoline they were gonna buy. So then they knew how much it was, and they're like, "Okay, it costs $500." Well, anytime they put in $1 into the family 401k, I put in $1. You can do whatever fits with your budget. Like, you are setting the limits with your kids, so if your kids put in $1, maybe you're giving them 10 cents, whatever works, but I just put in whatever, I match them dollar for dollar. Your kids then learn what a 401k plan is. They learn the terms. They learn that we don't get everything we want now, that we need to save for things. We learn how to communicate, how to negotiate, how to get what we want with our family. And so it's amazing, like, when you do things like that as a single parent, how empowering that can be for yourself, let alone how empowering that can be for your kids. So, and now, we have these trampolines, we have the hoverboard, we have all of this stuff that the kids saved and bought for themselves versus just me going out and buying a trampoline and them not appreciating it.
That is true. When you work for it yourself, you appreciate it a lot more.
Absolutely.
I'm all about empowering the youth. That's really where
Yes.
my advocacy comes in. What kinds of resources are there out there for parents so that they can start educating and empowering their children about money, saving, and respect, and understanding that their parents work hard? Are there resources or stories or books that parents can easily get their hands on and use a little at a time during family time to empower their children?
So I would do a family 401k, and you don't need to buy one of our shadow boxes. You can just take your own, make your own box. And so set up the family 401k plan for you with your kids, have family meetings. If your kids are older, like teenagers like mine, I would get the green light card. Again, it doesn't cost anything. I'm a financial advisor. I hate spending money. And so you can use that as a resource and as a tool. We also then have these decks of cards. They're called Love and Money cards. And where this came about, my fifth book that I wrote was Who Pays Navigating Love and Money. And so a couple of my clients came to me and they're like, do you know that you saved our marriage? And it was really where I learned, I'm like, wow, I'm more of a therapist than a wealth advisor. And so from that book, I then really, it became not so much like about dating and money. It was about what's the relationship with money with yourself, let alone with your kids. And so then we came up with this deck of cards that you then can have with yourself, these conversations with your kids or with your significant other. And so, just to randomly pull one out, and there's 52 of them. And the concept is to talk about one of these every single week. So you can do this with your kids at their family meetings. So, do you ever try to keep up with the Joneses with hanging out with your friends and regret it? What are some ideas to not live beyond your means? And then it could be, are you a spender or saver? Why? And so money can be overwhelming and intimidating. So these cards are to help you facilitate and have that conversation with yourself, your kids, or your significant other.
You just mentioned that you also wrote books. Can you just give us a quick overview of the topics and where we can get the cards and the books?
Yep. Everything you can go to NicoleMiddendorf.com. That's where you can find them. So my most recent one is a Live It List journal. And so it's where you can write out your Live It list. In there, there's also, I've always wanted, like, I'm a huge vision board person. Like, I have vision boards that I've done in the past here in my office. So I've always wanted that the vision board could fold out and, like, I could carry it with me. And so the pages fold out and you can make your own vision board. There's also the happiness wheel, which is what I do at least twice a year. And so there's two of opportunities in the journal to really figure out, and you score and rank where you are, of like, how happy am I in my personal relationships? How happy am I with my finances, with my environment, with my work? And it will help you really figure out, like, is there an area that you should focus on? Because otherwise, if you look at everything, it can be overwhelming. So, and then there's tons of questions and prompts in there. There's tons of pages to help you journal. And so it's really a way to help you really figure out, like, how can I be happier in my life in every aspect, let alone happier with my money. So that was my most recent one. And then prior to that was Who Pays? Navigating Love and Money. So it's all about relationships and money. I do have one that's questions and answers. And so that was the other thing that I thought of might be a good resource for people. It's called Simple Answers. And so that's where it's like, what's the difference between a Roth and a traditional IRA? So you can go in, it's kind of like investing for dummies is how it's set up. Is like, there's a chapter on estate planning. So it's all different questions all about estate planning. But all the books and everything, all the cards and everything, you can get it at NicoleMiddendorf.com.
That is incredible. I'm at this point now. I can't wait to play back the video and start taking some notes. You are just a plethora of information. I'm so glad that we met. Another question I have is from a financial perspective. Do you have any recommendations on how we can make America healthier overall, not just physically, but financially?
Well, I took my son, he's a big snowboarder, and I ski. So him and I went out to Utah, and we were sitting at the airport on the way back, and he asked me if I could help him with some of his homework. So it's for an English class, and it was a bibliography on the debt ceiling. So we researched, and we were reading all these articles and having this amazing conversation of the debt ceiling, and to attune that to the average American. And so to me, I find like having a debt limit is just dumb. Like, there's like no point in it. And it's really like, we have this feeling or this thought in America that we can just have unlimited spending. And we need to change that. Because, like, if you go to other cultures, if you travel to other places, they don't have this consumerism thought that, like, everything's just unlimited. There's actually some societies that come much more from a place of scarcity. And I really feel like that's so important. And one of the reasons that I love to travel so much, particularly with my children, is to bring them to Africa and bring them to Mexico and bring them to, Germany and other places so that they can see different cultures, and you can go and experience that yourself. So I just feel like Oprah said it, that we live unconsciously with our money. And so much of it is being conscious and being aware of where are we spending and what are we doing. And so I feel like we just, as Americans, just go about our day and just spend money, and we use Uber Eats and DoorDash, and we just put stuff in our Amazon cart and we check out. And then at the end of the month, we're like, oh my gosh, how much should I spend? And that's the same thing happening in the government, is like, let's just do, let's just, well, yes, we need this. We have budgets for this. And if we don't use the money, like, it's gone, like, we need to increase our budget. And I really feel like we need to flip that as Americans for our country, let alone Americans for ourselves, of like, how can we be better stewards of our money? And I was on TV recently and it was talking about dread spending and how there's actually like this huge trend right now. I mean, I have a teenage daughter. And so Sephora, like literally, for one of our trips, we've had to go to New York because they have the largest Sephora in America is in New York City. That girl saved her money like no tomorrow, and I watched her spend $900 and walk out of Sephora with like two tiny little bags. And, she's a teenager. Like, half these things, I'm like, "Do you even know what this does to your skin? Like, why do you need this? And, like, do you have to have 5 lip glosses and all of this?" And so this was like, TikTok, you have to have this new product and try this and do this and look at all of this. And now we have this huge pendulum swing to really the other way, where now these younger generations, they're like, we have all of this stuff and we are wasting our environment and we are wasting our money. And so let's not spend. Let's use what we have and then we go spend. So I just find it fascinating how the pendulum, has swung the other way, particularly with these younger generations. But overall theme, I really believe if we are so much more conscious and aware of what we're doing for ourselves, let alone for our country, it would make a big shift. And like, I'm not saying, put this stuff into the Amazon cart, shop away. But what you do then is you stop and you don't let yourself check out until Friday. So Friday, you open up and you look at your Amazon cart and you're like, wow, okay, it's $600. You're less likely to buy all of those things versus $20 here, $30 here, $100 here, $50 here, and getting kind of your fix every single day. It's going to stop and change your behavior and look at things different from a psychological standpoint. And that's really the most important thing that can help you with your money.
So it's like living more consciously, more aware of
Yes.
your behaviors and not allowing social media and influencers and commercials to dictate your decisions, but going more on to priorities and preferences and what you really want versus what you might have been thinking of because you just saw a TikTok with somebody
Right.
being very happy over something that you never wanted to begin with.
Right. And I mean, I just look back like how I was raised about money. I was working. My parents were like, here's 5 shirts and here's a couple pair of jeans and here's a pair of tennis shoes and like figure it out. And so, I started working at 11 and for me to like go out to get fast food somewhere was like a special treat. And now we're so much in this society. Like, I have so many conversations with my kids about like DoorDash and Uber Eats. And it's like nails on a chalkboard to me when my kids are like, oh, well, we'll just Uber Eats it or DoorDash it. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you just spent $23 or $32 for Chipotle. Like, are you nuts? Like, let's go to the grocery store and buy $32 worth of groceries and it'll last us for a couple of days. And so it's just how are we raised about money? How are we living and what are we teaching the next generations? How are we being very conscious and aware of, what we're spending, especially because you feel it, particularly with inflation, you feel it like when you're buying food, going out to eat, restaurants, let alone the grocery store. So
It is so true. We are in challenging times, and I do really appreciate all of your advice because, especially now, we do need to hone in and think about our future and have more valuable insights into our spending and our behaviors. And I really like the idea of being able to lay it all out. That the book that you just told me about, I am ordering it because I am also a very visual person.
mhm.
And I like the idea that, and again, it is the beginning of the year, so it's weighing more on my mind. And I also like when you were talking about because it is time of the year to get all of my paperwork together, I'm going to need it for my accountant anyway. So I think between ordering your book, getting all of my paperwork together, taking your invaluable information, that I am positioning myself and potentially even being able to get a little money invested before I even do my taxes so that we don't have that holding our breath waiting for the accountant to print out where we're going to sign our life away. I feel like you've set me up. So
Yay! That's the goal.
I am
That's the
sure
goal.
that my listeners are going to feel the same way. You are such a gem. I can't say that enough. So, before I wrap up, I want to remind everyone to complete the survey. Your feedback helps us create content that truly serves you, and it's a great opportunity to share what topics you want us to dive into in future episodes. Also, leave your questions and comments for Nicole so she can answer them on the next podcast. Nicole, we look forward to having you back for a follow-up episode. I hope that you have the time to come back and join us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And to all of you watching, don't forget to stay connected with the Longevity Health Initiative on social media for updates, more episodes, and other health and wellness tips. Until next time, remember your financial wellness is just one piece of the puzzle to achieve for a life full of vitality. Take charge of your health and your wealth, and we'll see you on the next episode. Please remember to take time to complete the survey, leave us a comment so that we know what you'd like to hear from on our next podcast with Nicole. Thank you again for listening.